live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.
Benny Ricciardi is here to break down the day's betting board for you.
Let's go, Jerry. Go!
Taking a first look at the day's bets, it's time for the FTN Betting Show.
Welcome to the FTN Betcast for Thursday, August 25th here at FTN Bets and sponsored by our friends over at Sleeper. Sleeper is the fastest growing fantasy platform today with millions of players, and now you can win on Sleeper by playing in their new over-under game too. It's super easy to play. So first, in any sport, you're going to choose two or more players that you like, and you're just going to pick whether they're going to go over or under their listed total. So, for example, tonight in baseball could be the number of hits, maybe the number of runs somebody's going to score, number of strikeouts that a pitcher has. Then you're going to choose an amount of money that you want to enter into the contest. And if you pick correctly, you can win anywhere from 2 times your money all the way up to 20 times your money if you go 5 out of 5 and get them all correct. But the main reason why I'm excited about the over-under game on Sleeper, it's the only app where I can join in my buddy's contest and we could all play together. It has a built-in group chat where I can see what you're playing, you can see what I'm playing, and we could all see what the guy who won 3 games in a row is playing. And it's insanely fun when everybody in the group is writing it out together and rooting for the same things to happen. So stop what you're doing now, download the Sleeper app, play the new over-under game, have some fun with your friends, and make a little bit of money in the process. On your mobile phone, you can go to sleeper.com/FTNbets, and Sleeper will automatically match your first deposit up to $100 when you join the group. Again, look in the description of this podcast, sleeper.com/FTNbets, and you get that $100 match on your first deposit. There are terms and conditions that apply, so you need to see Sleeper's terms of use for those details. Today, we're going to roll on with our team betting previews. We're out in the AFC West with the last team in the AFC West, last year's champions in the AFC West, the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs were 12-5 in 2021, made the playoffs again as expected. They had a slow start to the year, but finished strong, was 4-1 at the end of the season to go from 8-4 to that 12-5 record. They just missed out on the number 1 seed to the Tennessee Titans by, I think it went all the way down to the last week of the season where they needed a win or the Titans needed to lose a game or something along those lines. So Kansas City definitely one of the best teams in the AFC last year, and very likely are going to be one of the best teams in the AFC again this year. The problem, though, is we don't have them projected as highly this year. We actually have them projected to take a step back, and that's what I want to talk about here. So Jeff Ratcliffe has them projected for 9.7 wins. Now, remember, last year, 10 wins is what guaranteed you a playoff berth. If you had 9, some of those teams made it, some of those teams didn't. So this is a big step back here for Kansas City, 2.5 to 3 wins below where they were last season. So, again, they had a big loss with Tyreek Hill. That's obviously going to be something that they need to figure out. They pretty much lost all of their receivers. Not that they lost them, but pretty much all of the receivers moved on. McCall Hardman is the only guy that's really left there. They brought in a rookie in Sky Moore. They brought in a couple other guys in Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. All of these guys expect to, be on the field quite a bit here and also be pretty big targets for Patrick Mahomes. I mean, you had almost 200 targets last year that went towards Tyreek Hill. So taking him out of the equation, there is a massive, massive void in Kansas City here that needs to be filled. And again, I think Juju does take a lot of that, but I don't think Juju takes all of that. I think that, the workload that was going to Tyreek Hill and other guys too, guys like Byron Pringle, who, by the end of the year was out there on the field quite a bit and stuff like that. All those targets there, it's over 200 targets that we're going to have to find a home for here. And the guys that are going to take them are going to be guys like Sky Moore, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and Juju Smith-Schuster. Those are the 3 guys that are probably going to take the most of them. I would think Juju gets the biggest chunk of that, followed by Marquez Valdez-Scantling, followed by Sky Moore. But again, it's very tough to predict a team that has so many new pieces that are getting added into the offense. Now, again, with Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback, this is an above average offensive situation for all these guys. And I'm not saying that they can't approximate what Tyreek Hill did, but I don't think there's a single one of them that is going to take over the quote unquote Tyreek Hill role and be the, 180 target, 120 catch, 13, 14, 1500 yard kind of guy. I think it's probably going to be a little more distributed this year, which may actually make them a tougher team to defend and may actually work out in their favor. We don't really know until we actually see them out there on the field, but I do think it's going to be positive for all of these guys who are arguably playing with the best quarterback that any of them have ever played with Although you can make the argument Valdez-Scantling did come from, Green Bay, and he has played with Aaron Rodgers and all that stuff. So there's some arguments there that we'll have another time. So let's go to the team win total here first. The team win total, the consensus number out in the market is 10.5 wins for the Kansas City Chiefs. The over is minus 115. FanDuel and MGM have over 10.5 at minus 115. Again, we have them projected for only 9.7 wins on Jeff Ratcliffe's win total. So the under is the way that I would rather play this based on our numbers. Plus 110 on PointsBet is what you're getting for the under here. So plus 110 under on PointsBet is the way I would go for the Kansas City Chiefs here. Although, again, I wouldn't be shocked if they win 11 or 12 games. I just want to see how this team gels before I think they're going to be better than they were last year with Tyreek Hill, on Miami now. Kansas City to make the playoffs, minus 210 for Kansas City to make the playoffs. I don't think that's a good bet at all. I would stay away from that. Do I think they make the playoffs? Yeah, I do think they make the playoffs, but that is giving them like a 68, 70% chance to make the playoffs. And I honestly feel like that's just too high a number. 55, maybe 60% is probably about as high as I would think it should go. So minus 210, too rich for my blood. Plus 185 for them not to make the playoffs. I don't really want to bet against the Chiefs here. I don't want to bet against Patrick Mahomes. I don't want to bet against Andy Reid. But again, based on the numbers, like I said, last year you needed at least 10 wins to guarantee a playoff spot. 9.7 is what we're projecting them for this year. So they are more likely than not to get to that 10-win mark. So again, even at plus 185, it's not the greatest thing to bet the under here, but I do think the under is a better bet than the over if you got a gun to my head and force me to pick one side or the other. So let's go on and talk about the AFC West. Plus 175 for the Kansas City Chiefs to win the AFC West. Again, I still think they're the best team in the West. I mean, you do have the Los Angeles Chargers, who we talked about. You have the Denver Broncos, who got a lot better. You have the Las Vegas Raiders, who finished second in this division and added Devontae Adams. So, I don't think it's crazy to think that the Chiefs don't win the division again this year. But at the same point in time, they are still the chalk and the team that's expected to win it. So at plus 175 is one of the higher numbers you're going to get on any chalk team to win their division. So I do think it's at least worth a wager here. Now, again, I agree. The Chargers are good. I think the Broncos are better. I think the Raiders are better. I think everybody in this division is better. But the Chiefs did win this division pretty easily last year. I think they won it by 2 games and, at least 2 games over everybody else here. It's a competitive division, but plus 175 just feels like a little bit too high of a number. Plus 155, plus 165 is what you're seeing in a lot of other places in the market. So to get it at plus 175, DraftKings, PointsBet, Caesars all have it at that number. I do think there's a little value in the Chiefs to win the AFC West there. To win the AFC overall, plus 600 on Caesars. It's plus 500 to plus 550 elsewhere. That's too low of a number for me to want to invest in it. Again, like if this is 10-1, sure, absolutely. I'd be all over it. I mean, I do expect the Chiefs to be one of the best teams in the AFC. Do I think they're better than Buffalo? No, I don't think they're better than Buffalo. And that's why for plus 600, like it's just not enough for me to get interested in it. At plus 8, plus 9, I'd probably start being interested. If it was 10-1, I would definitely be interested, but 6-1, probably a little bit too low for me to put my money on there. Chiefs to win the Super Bowl, 11-1. Again, if I need 10-1 just to bet on the AFC, 11-1 is not going to be enough to get me to bet on the Super Bowl. 11-1 on Caesars is the best place you could play the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. They are 10-1 on every other book that's out there in the market. So Caesars slightly better at 11-1, but again, I still think that's too low a number. So not really all that excited about taking the Kansas City Chiefs as the Super Bowl champions for 2022 at only 11-1. 15-1, 18-1, 20-1, definitely. 11-1, going to keep my money in my wallet. So there you go. That wraps it up for the team stuff. Let's go talk about some of the individual player prop numbers here for the Kansas City Chiefs. And we're going to start where we always do with quarterback, and that's going to be Patrick Mahomes here. So first number to talk about, Patrick Mahomes, MVP, plus 900 on DraftKings. It's plus 800 on most of the other books, PointsBet, FanDuel, MGM, Caesars, all plus 800. DraftKings has it at plus 900 for Patrick Mahomes to win the MVP. Probably got to win about, 12 to 14 games again this year if he's going to be in that discussion. He's probably got to throw for close to 5,000 yards, probably going to get 40-plus touchdown passes, all things that Patrick Mahomes has done before in his career. He has a 5,000-yard season and a 16-game season, too. He has a 50-touchdown season, I think, as well. A bunch of other ones, 37, 38, where he missed a game or two there. Yes, this is definitely numbers that he could put up. 9-1 on DraftKings. I mean, again, I'm not rushing out to put money on Patrick Mahomes to win MVP, but I do think he belongs in the discussion at 9-1. I think that's about a fair price for him. So I don't mind if anybody who's a huge Mahomes fan or thinks he's going to have a big year wants to put a little bit of money on that. Most passing yards for Patrick Mahomes plus 800, basically a consensus number everywhere. I like it. I don't think it's a bad number at all. I mean, you have guys like, now again, this is most passing yards in the entire league. So it's not just AFC, it's AFC and NFC. So, you know, he has a guy in his division in Justin Herbert who threw for 5,000 last year. Tom Brady threw for 5,300, I think, last year. Brady's got a bunch of receivers banged up. You know, Herbert's got everybody healthy, and he's got a really, really good receiving core, really good group of pass catchers, even out of the backfield and the tight end spot and all that with Everett and Eckler and, you know, obviously Williams and Keenan Allen on the outside. So, you know, I mean, again, I think there's a chance that he could lead the league in most passing yards. It depends how he gels with guys like, you know, Marquez Valdez-Scantling down the field. Do we get like the Juju Smith-Schuster that was, you know, on Pittsburgh Steelers opposite Antonio Brown back in the day? You know, is Sky Moore as good as some people are thinking he's going to be as their rookie wide receiver? There's a lot of question marks here, right? And that's why it's tough to really talk about these Mahomes numbers and have a lot of faith in it, because other than Mahomes throwing the ball to Kelsey, we haven't really seen what he's going to do with any of these wide receivers yet in a regular season game, and, you know, how they're all going to work into everything here. So most passing yards plus 800. Again, I'm not going to knock anybody who puts money on it. I think it's a good number. I'm not rushing out to make sure I free up some cash or some capital to, you know, to lock up for 4 months on Patrick Mahomes to have the most passing yards in the league. Just not the way I'm going to be spending my money. Most passing yards for the season, 4,500 over -112 on FanDuel. He threw for 4,800 last year, had 4,740 in 15 games in 2020. 2019, he was under this number, but he only played 14 games there. He threw for 4,000 yards that season in 14 games. If he would have played the full 16, probably would have got close to that 4,500 number that we're looking at here. And then in 2018, that's when he had the biggest season of his career. That's when he threw for over 5,000 yards. So, you know, 4,500, I don't think it's crazy for Patrick Mahomes, but I do think we're going to need to get 16, 17 games out of Patrick Mahomes for him to get over this 4,500 number. So again, it's one of those numbers where I think it's a good number. I think it's probably priced for him to have a not a perfect season, but like to play all the games, not get hurt, not get injured, maybe get injured one game or maybe sit out the last game of the season if they lock up a playoff spot or something. But other than that, it would probably come in as an under. Now, again, I do lean to the over here, but, you know, I don't think it's one of those where, you know, when we talked about some of the other quarterbacks that were, if they play a full 17 games, you know, they're going to go over their number by 700-800 yards. If they play 14 or 15 games, they probably still have a chance to make this number. I think you're going to need Mahomes to play 16 or 17 games to have a chance to go over 4,500 yards here. And, you know, that's not a knock on Mahomes. I mean, most guys aren't even going to get close to 4,500 yards, but that's a big number. You know, we're not talking 3,800 yards here. We're talking 4,500 yards. Very few guys in the league are going to throw for 5,000 or 4,500 to 5,000 yards this year. And all the ones that do are probably going to play all 17 games. So really, you know, like I said, I think Mahomes is going to have to play well. And he's going to have to play well for the entire season and avoid injury. There's just too many things that have to go completely right in order for this number to work. So I'm staying away from it. I'm not willing to bet the under on it, but I am staying away from the over. If you did want to bet the under, 4,650 yards on DraftKings at -110 is the place where you can play the under on Patrick Mahomes passing yardage there. Next, I want to talk about most touchdown passes for Patrick Mahomes. Plus 900 on DraftKings is the number. Plus 600 to plus 800 is the number in other places here. So I think the most touchdown passes one is a little more interesting to me than the most passing yards one. He had 37 last year, had 38 in 15 games the year before. The year he only played 14 games, he finished with 26, so that would have been an under. And then the year before that, his MVP season, he threw for 50 touchdowns. So 34.5 is the number out there in the market. Yes, I do think he can go over, and yes, I do think he can lead the league. So I like the plus 900 on DraftKings for him to lead the league. As for the passing touchdown number, his prop number for this year, 34.5. You know, again, if he plays all 16 or 17 games, you know, he's gone over this number 3 of the last 4 years. The 1 year he didn't, he missed 3 games that season. Probably still would have ended under this number, but, you know, it would have been a lot closer. Probably would have finished around 32, 33, right in this range. So I do lean to the over on this, minus 112 on FanDuel, the best place to play that over 34.5 touchdown number for Patrick Mahomes. If you want to play the under 34.5 touchdowns, you can get that at even money on DraftKings. The fact that the under at 34.5 is even money just kind of shows you that even the books are, expecting this to go over, and the bettors are expecting this to go over. They're giving you even money on the under just to kind of entice you to take the under there. But really, this is a number that Patrick Mahomes should go over, assuming he stays healthy this year. If he gets injured, again, he's probably not going to do this unless he plays 15, 16, 17 games. If he plays any less than that, I don't think he makes it. But if he does play the full season, I would expect him to be over 35 touchdowns here and cash this. So now let's move on and talk about some of his pass catchers here. So actually, you know what? Before we talk about the pass catchers, let's go to the running back position. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. What do we do with Clyde Edwards-Helaire? Last year, he only played 10 games, had 517 yards. So he averaged 51 yards a game. 51 yards over 17 games. You're talking somewhere around like 860, 870 yards on the season. The year before, he had 803 yards as a rookie. He only played 13 games, missed 3 games that season, was on pace to get close to 1,000 if he would have stayed healthy. And that's the real issue here with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, right? One year, he played 13 games. Last year, he played 10 games. So that means in 2 seasons in the NFL, this is a guy who's already missed 10 regular season games of the, 30-something that he had a chance to play. So when you look at it that way, and you got a guy that's missed a couple games, basically every year, that's kind of why the number is so low, because a healthy Clyde Edwards-Helaire should absolutely crush this number here. Now, again, the Isaiah Pacheco noise, the Ronald Jones noise from this summer, the, Jerick McKinnon, superstar, spark score, always in there kind of noise. At the end of the day, though, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is still the RB1 on this team. Now, yeah, maybe he loses some carries to some of those other guys, or maybe he loses some passing down work, or, maybe he's not the 80, 90% workhorse back that a Derrick Henry or a Christian McCaffrey are, but he's still the running back, and a good running back, and a guy who's put up some 100-yard games and has had some decent games. He's also had some really crappy games, but, again, it's 650 yards we're talking here, guys. Like, we're not talking, oh, my God, we got to get 1,100 yards out of Clyde Edwards-Helaire. It's 650. That's a really, really low number there. So I like the over on Clyde Edwards-Helaire rushing yards, minus 112 on FanDuel. If this guy can stay healthy and play 14 or 15 games, if he plays 13 games at 50 yards a game, he's going to go over this. That's the thing. So, like, if he plays 16 or 17 games, I think he makes this easy. So these are the kind of plays that we really like to take when a guy who stays healthy, if he can stay healthy. And again, I'm not in the business of predicting injuries. I'm not a doctor. I do not have a medical degree. I have absolutely no idea if some of these injuries are, things that, we say guys are injury prone all the time and people skip on them in their fantasy drafts. And then a guy goes on and doesn't get injured and has a 1,400 yard season or 1,200 yard season with a dozen touchdowns. Predicting injuries, it's a fool's errand right now. You can never tell when it's going to happen. So for me, I think taking Clyde Edwards-Helaire is probably the way to go here. I like the over, minus 112 on FanDuel. If you want to play an under on his rushing yards, 700 is the highest number there. DraftKings has that under at minus 115. So you can go over there and look at Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Clyde Edwards-Helaire over 4.5 touchdowns is minus 112. Under 5.5 touchdowns is minus 130. The over you can get at FanDuel, minus 112, over 4.5 touchdowns. The under, minus 130, BetMGM, 5.5 touchdowns. I'm not touching the touchdown number. It's just not something I want to do with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I don't know if they're going to use one. I mean, all of their backs to me are kind of scat backs. You look at McKinnon, you look at Clyde Edwards-Helaire, even Isaiah Pacheco, who's the guy that people are talking about. It was the reason why people thought Ronald Jones could have had a role on this team, because they expected him to be more of the bruiser back. But really, I mean, Ronald Jones may wind up getting cut here. I don't know if he's going to wind up doing anything, which could make Clyde Edwards-Helaire the goal line back. And if that's the case, then maybe he goes over this number. But for me, I would rather just mess with the yardage total for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So I stayed away from the touchdown number altogether. Now we can talk about some of Patrick Mahomes' pass catchers. And where should I start? Should I start with Kelsey, or should we leave Kelsey? Let's start with Kelsey. What the hell? So the thing that we do know here, Travis Kelsey catches 90.5 is the number that we have, over minus 120 on DraftKings, 92, 105, 97, 103. Those are his catch numbers for the last 4 seasons. So the last 4 seasons, he has been over this number. Again, 92, 105, 97, 103. You're talking about him being like 99 catches on average over the last 4 years. 90.5 is the number here. So yes, I do like the over at minus 120 here on DraftKings. If you want to play the under on his catches, 91.5. BetMGM has that at minus 115. That would be the best place to play the under here. You get a little higher at 91.5 catches instead of 90.5 catches. But again, he's gone over that 91.5 number each of the last 4 years. So a healthy, and he missed a game or two in a couple of those seasons as well. So healthy Travis Kelce definitely should be somewhere between 90 and 100 catches this year, if not more. And the numbers kind of bear that out over the past. So again, if you're betting against him here, you're basically betting on an injury because the production should be there for Travis Kelce again this season. The number I like better, though, is actually the receiving yards. 1,024 receiving yards, minus 115 on BetMGM. The last 6 seasons that Travis Kelce has been in the league, he's gone over 1,024 receiving yards. I think his low was 1,037, and he missed a game or two that season as well. 1,100, 1,200, 1,400, like that. He's been over this number by a lot. So this is another one of those guys that I like the over for, because again, he does not need to play all 17 games to get the over. If he plays all 17, he could end up with 11 or 1,200 yards. If he plays 15 or 16, though, he could still get over the 10-25 we need in order to cash this. So those are the plays that I really like. I like the over on the Travis Kelce receiving yards here at 1,024 on BetMGM for minus 115. If you want to play an under on Kelce's receiving yards, 1,100 is the highest number out there in the market. You could play the under in that on DraftKings at minus 120. That would be the place to play it. But again, I'm on the over on that side. I think is the better way to play that one. Travis Kelce, 8.5 touchdowns, over minus 118 on FanDuel, under 9.5 touchdowns, minus 115 on DraftKings and BetMGM. Last 5 seasons, 8 touchdowns, 10 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns, 11 touchdowns, 9 touchdowns. What that says to me is that this is like a perfect number for him, because he's gone over it a couple times. He's gone under it a couple times. He's never blown it away. He's never really missed it by a massive amount. He's always within like 1 or 2 touchdowns here. He has a range of 5 to 11 touchdowns over the last 5 seasons, which would mean the number should be somewhere around that 8.5 thing there. Again, sometimes the number is just a really good number. We don't have any value on one side or the other, with touchdowns being something that's a little bit more variable, where, it could be a spike or a drop any year, just based on the way things work out, and a little bit of a freak thing there. Volume is something you can count on. Touchdowns are something that's a little more variable. So I would rather bet on things like the yardage or the catches with him than I would on the touchdown. So I'm avoiding that touchdown number with Travis Kelce. Next pass catcher we could talk about, Juju Smith-Schuster. Let's see. So for the last 2 years, right, Tyreek Hill, number 1 wide receiver here, which is basically kind of, like I said, I don't think he's going to be target for target the exact same role that Tyreek Hill had, but I think Juju is going to be the number 1 wide receiver. And with Tyreek Hill as the number 1 wide receiver, this guy had almost 200 catches on almost 300 targets over the course of the last 2 seasons. Massive, massive numbers that they have to replace here in Kansas City. And Juju Smith-Schuster is a guy who's had a 90 catch season, 1,000-yard seasons. Like, these are not things that we haven't seen out of Juju. So some of these numbers to me just don't make sense to him. 74.5 is the number for catches on DraftKings. Over is minus 125. Under is minus 105. I would agree with that. I think he goes well over 74.5. I think that number is too low. But remember, it's also juiced up to minus 125. So even the books are saying, yeah, we realize that number is a little too low, so we're just not going to give you a good payout on it. So again, I like the over there, but I don't like the payout. So that is not the way that I'm playing Juju. The way that I decided to play Juju is over 750 receiving yards, because that number just seemed way too low for me. I mean, if I think this guy could get 80 plus balls caught this year, I think he's going to have over 100, 110, 120 targets this year. 750 yards for guys that have those kind of numbers is not asking a lot at all whatsoever. So over minus 120 on DraftKings for 750 receiving yards. Yes, this is juiced up a little bit as well, but that also says that, hey, this is likely to go over there. I do like Juju, 750 receiving yards. Play that over there. I mean, like I said, this is a guy who's had a 1,000-yard receiving season before. He's going to be the number 1 receiver. He was replacing a guy who had well over 1,000 yards last year. I just think this number is too low. I would have thought the Juju number should be like 875 to 925 range. And even there, I might have been willing to take the over, but at 750, I love the over here. So give me all the Juju Smith-Schuster over on receiving yards. 6.5 touchdowns is the Juju number. Again, I don't know how the touchdowns are going to break down with this team. It's kind of the same thing I said with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. It's like, are they going to run when they get close there? Are they going to go with like the shovel pass, under to Travis Kelce? Are they going to do some end around stuff. I mean, I guess Marquez Valdez-Scantling is probably the biggest of the receivers that they have, which isn't saying much. So, actually Sky Moore might be. I'd have to double check on that, but I don't really know if they have a typical like big guy red zone threat that they're going to throw to, or that they feel can win all those one-on-one matchups. Like, I don't know. I sometimes one of the best things you could say when you're gambling is I don't know. And if the answer to something is I don't know, then that tells you right away that that's not something you should be betting on, right? Like we want to stick to taking advantage of the things that we have a strong feeling about. I can't really tell you how the touchdown numbers are going to work out here for the Chiefs this year. I think they're going to score a lot of touchdowns. I think if I had to bet, I would be betting the overs on most of these guys. But again, I don't know. Maybe Travis Kelce has a 15 touchdown year. Maybe they get down into the red zone and Clyde Edwards-Helaire winds up rushing in 10 of them this year. Maybe it is Juju. Maybe Juju does have double-digit touchdowns. I don't know. Like, that's the thing. If you don't know, it's tough to really put money on it. I would rather keep my money to places where I do have a little bit more of a lean. So when it comes to the touchdown numbers on all these guys here this year for Kansas City, I'm kind of just sitting on the back burner and just watching to see how it all works out. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, not really a lot of individual numbers for him out there in the market. I tried to find some catch totals or some receiving yards, but none of the books that we work with really have any of that stuff listed. I guess they're still trying to figure out whether it's going to be him, whether it's going to be Sky Moore, how much each is going to be on the field, even whether Juju is going to take a massive role or just a big role. Like, all those things are going to affect how many passes go Marquez Valdez-Scantling's way or Sky Moore's way. So they don't have any numbers up there for Marquez Valdez-Scantling other than like to lead the league in receptions or lead the league in yards or lead the league in touchdowns. I don't even care if it's 100 to 1, 150 to 1. I'm not betting on him to lead the league in any of those categories. So no Marquez Valdez-Scantling bets here for me. Sky Moore, I didn't bet on either. And pretty much the same thing as MBS. There's not a lot of numbers out there in the market for Sky Moore. One thing I did want to mention with him, though, offensive rookie of the year, 12 to 1 on FanDuel and Caesars, which felt like kind of a low number. I mean, Breece Hall's like 9 to 1. And I think Breece Hall should be one of the favorites, if not the favorite, to win the award this year. And he's only 9 to 1. There's a bunch of other wide receivers at 7, 8, 9, 12, 10, 15 to 1. So Sky Moore is getting a lot of juice for the potential to be the offensive rookie of the year here. 10 to 1 to 11 to 1 is where it is on other sites, 12 to 1 on FanDuel and Caesars. So if you're looking to get some money down on Sky Moore, that'd be the place to do it there. So there you go. That wraps it up for our look at the Kansas City Chiefs sports betting preview for 2022 here on the FTN Betscast, sponsored by our friends over at Sleeper. Good luck today, everybody.
Live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.